these are from Goodman Games. They're out right now. They're called Original Adventures Reincarnated. Ooh. See that? Or, you know. So what Original Adventures Reincarnated is, it's a series of 3, now, like, in a few days, number 4 is coming out. Oh. Where they are reprinting in their entirety the original versions of these modules in full, exactly as they were. First, each book opens up with a series of essays and articles from people who created them originally, or people who were involved in Dungeons & Dragons, and so on. Then after that, it gets into the reprint, where it reprints them exactly. So, if you want the exact old adventures and modules, they're all in there. And most of them are reprinting multiple versions because they went through multiple printings. So like both of the ones I just showed of the Isle of Dread are both in here.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, they're in these beautiful hardcovers, complete with, you know, the little...
Oh, that's pretty cool.
The bookmarks and all that. Then, a complete 5th edition conversion of these original adventures.
Oh, that's cool.
Not only made for modern rules, but then they expand them all with, like, new dungeon levels and new this and new that. Like, there's all sorts of new stuff to make them even bigger than they used to be before. And then in the back you have your monster sections with all like the monsters that were only in these particular adventures. In the original modules, not all the different layers of different monsters had maps. Sometimes it was just like, here's like some wild cave bears and they're in a cave. Here you've got it. You know, here's an ogre lair, and here, you know, it's all in there.
This is nice because we've been talking about playing again online, and that's one of your favorites, and now we can, because of this book, we can kind of incorporate it into playing it, because it's a 5th edition version of...
Yes, and that's why I love these, and that's one of the reasons why I picked these up. Now, the main reason why I started to get this series is specifically for the Isle of Dread.
Right.
I've said before, this is only very rarely ran pre-made modules, pre-made adventures. Anyway, it wasn't my thing. I liked to make it up. I like to make up my own adventures and my own worlds and all that. And I liked the organic storytelling that comes out of Dungeons & Dragons.
Right.
I mean, even when we were playing last year, it was in a city and setting of my own devising.
Yeah.
And the story that was unfolding was your story. The decisions that you guys were making was what was making this story, like what allowed the story to unfold the way that it was. And a lot of times in these modules, it's not that way. Like there's a path to follow, but not in all of them. And that's one of the reasons why I like the Isle of Dread, is because the Isle of Dread is, okay, you see that map?
Yeah.
And it's all, this is meant to be the player's map. So you get this. The players find word of like this lost island, and there's possibly like amazing treasure located somewhere on the island. And so you go, and this is all meant for you to explore.
Okay.
And throughout all this is what you do, like they call a hex crawl, where you're exploring hex by hex.
Right.
There's all sorts of stuff on this island. Dungeons and temples and like mysteries and stories, all to uncover. But it's a sandbox. You're not doing things in any particular order because you're exploring as you want. I always loved that about this. I like adventures like that. So that's why I grabbed this, because I was like, oh my god, like I ran the Isle of Dread back in the 80s. One of my most memorable D&D experiences was we spent a weekend at my friend Chris's house, a group of us. We were all, like, parents said, okay, yeah, you can do like a long sleepover. And we slept over all weekend, and we just did, all we did all weekend was, I ran everyone through this.
That's awesome.
And there was his hilarious meltdown where one of our friends was upset. Both of his characters got killed in rapid succession in embarrassing ways, and he was pissed off, and he's throwing it. So, yeah, it's this whole thing. I have great memories of this. The series itself is great. The first one was Into the Borderlands. This one combines 2 different adventures: In Search of the Unknown, which I didn't play or really know, and then The Keep on the Borderlands, which old school players, almost everyone knows that one. That's like a famous old one. It came with one of the early basic sets, and it's just like a classic adventure.
Right.
So this one combines those 2 together into this one thing. And again, you can see like it's got that old school look, like, because that's directly from old scans. But then in the back, it's the full expanded version of those old adventures, which is super cool.
And is that brought up to edition 5 again too? Like they do the same thing?
That's what all 3 of these do, same thing. And then this is another very famous older adventure. I kind of don't want to say why it's famous for people who don't know, because it's got a twist to it.
Oh, okay.
But Expedition to the Barrier Peaks is like another like very very famous, very well known, more controversial than beloved because of the twist.
Huh.
You know what? I'll say what the twist. I'm never going to run you through this. I'll say what the twist is, and I don't think anyone watching.
We'll put a spoiler alert.
Exactly. Quick spoiler alert. So, the Barrier Peaks and the expedition, the dungeon that you go to, is a crashed UFO.
Oh, so you're like not in the past or in the future kind of thing.
Well, it's not that you're in the future, but like you're fantasy folks, but you don't, like, your characters don't know what this stuff is.
Okay.
So like there's robots and aliens and technology, and so as they go through this,
Slee stacks.
yeah, and then there's this whole series of these cutouts
Oh, that's cool.
that are meant to be given to players to show them, like, this is what you're seeing, right? So it's like stuff like that.
Huh.
And of course, if you're playing and you're trying to be in character.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out what that is.
Exactly. So there's like laser guns and stuff like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And there's the rules for how they work, so that your players can go through this. You can be in a D&D world with a laser gun, which is kind of neat. So yeah, a lot of people don't like that conceit. I think it's kind of a neat twist.
Yeah.
It's fun. You know, stuff like that is always like fun and different. If you want to play these old adventures under the old rules, but you don't want to spring for the money to get, because even though it says cover price $50, you can get them online for cheaper through online retailers. I did not spend $50 a pop for this. I would have for the Isle of Dread, but not for any of the others. I mean, they're hefty.
Shit.
But yeah, if you want to run the old adventures the way they originally were, or you just want like this keepsake, that's there, which is neat. And plus, again, each one opens up with all these essays and articles and so on. But then, if you want to run them under current rules, it's all there and expanded. Like this, for instance, the dungeon that you go through has, I don't know, like 7 levels or something like this. But then in here, with the updated version, it adds 2 whole new additional full levels. So with some of these, like the Isle of Dread in particular, you could probably run the Isle of Dread for months, because there's so much content, there's so much stuff. So like you could have months and months and months, like 6 months to a year of adventure just with that one book.
Jeez.
Because it's this whole big island to explore.
That's cool though.
It's a really cool merging of like nostalgic old school stuff, but then like new rules and stuff to play it currently, and I think they're awesome. The new one, the 4th one, The Lost City, comes out in 2 days. Today's the 18th, right? That we're filming this, I think, on the 18th.
I think so.
But I do want that one because The Lost City is a really cool adventure and it's a cool setting.
Huh.
And the thing that I like about stuff like this, especially like let's say like with Into the Borderlands and not as much Expedition of the Barrier Peaks, but Into the Borderlands and the Isle of Dread, is that even if I didn't want to run you through, like, let's say the whole adventure, there are things that I could pluck out to use.
Right.
And so like you can use things from this without having to run through the whole thing. The production quality is great. Big kudos to Goodman Games. It's stitch binding. It's not glue binding. It's stitch binding.
Break.
Got these nice bookmarks, which is really cool. These are going to last for a lot of years. Getting all the extra stuff like the articles and the old artwork. Yeah, so I'm excited about the 4th one because the Lost City is a cool adventure, and I don't want to give anything away about that one because there's always the outside possibility like that I'll run somebody through it.
Right.
And I hope they keep this series going because there's a couple, there's maybe 1 or 2 others that I would love for them to do in this style. This is how D&D modules used to look, and this was like the trade dress and all that. By the time I got into it in the early 80s, this was the trade dress, and this is I like this. The big Dungeons & Dragons logo.
Yeah, like the 2 lines and the title and everything.
Yeah, and the framing, there was always like one bold cover color that framed everything with the art, and like I just like that look. The aesthetic is...
that's what you grew up with.
Yeah, the aesthetic just clicks with me. And there was always these, right, because the old school players always know no modules by these designations.
Yeah, what is that?
So there was X1, X2, so this was expert module number 1.
Oh, okay.
And so like Keep on the Borderlands was like B1 and B2. So some people know these famous modules by those designations. Fun stuff. So there you go. I just wanted to recommend those things because they're awesome.